Hello everyone, this is Club 10M Plus's exciting new podcast that's here for you. We are all about stories, new developments and learning about individuals. Our hope is that you will join us every week to hear about our distinguished guests. We hope to inspire you, bring you laughter and make you reflect. Our guests come from all walks of life and primarily they want to share their stories. Not sure about you, but I love a good story. So Club 10M Plus have devoted their time to creating these podcasts, to sharing great ideas and stories and much more. So tune in every week to make sure that you don't miss out. It could be you next week. Want to know more? We want to hear your stories. So sign up and be our next guest. And hello and welcome, Maurice, to the podcast. And we call it the Panther for a very good reason, because panthers are kind of curious creatures. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Maurice and welcome him today to explain to me about a little bit of your story.
Yeah.
That's how we're going to go.
Welcome. I can do that. Thank you. It's good to be here. My story, man. I like to start at the end, and I'm going to get real quick to where I think it's beneficial to people because it's not about me, it's about them. So I'm 47. I live on the East Coast of the US, born in New York, raised in Boston, live in Washington, DC, Haitian immigrant family. I am out of the working world now, actually the traditional working world, because my 21-year-old self figured something out, and I'm very grateful to that young man. And what he figured out, just like the thing that's on behind me on the screen here, is that, hey, you don't have to live life the way that everybody else is doing it. You can try life on your way. You can have amazing adventures all over the world just simply by going to the library and reading how to do things like travel hacking, going after financial freedom, having multiple careers at the same time such that you can experience as much in life as you want. My story has been all about that. It has been driven by this notion that I don't have to abide by the status quo, that I could build lifestyle that I don't need a vacation from. And here I am, 47, having lived 4 or 5 lifetimes in a 25-year period. And I think that's what I want to get across to people is this thing that we do, this rat race thing that we do where we get up, we go to work without understanding why we are truly there, except for making 2 paychecks. We come home, we do homework with the kids, we have 2 glasses of wine, a slight headache, go to bed, get up, do it again, and press repeat for 40 plus years. It's unnecessary. There's many, many different ways that you can try life on, and I have figured it out.
Hang on. Whoa, let's just pause. Are you kidding me? 5 different lifetimes in 25 years. Okay.
I think so.
So I want to go through that as well. I want to also explore the fact that but that's how society has taught us. We are supposed to go to work every day. We're supposed to get on this hamster wheel. We have to do this. How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to educate my children? How am I going to have a roof over my head if I don't do these things? So you're telling me we can do it in a very, very different way. And
yes.
And with that seriousness,
yes.
How easy was it for you to realize that and change the status quo?
It's not easy, but what I was at 21 was very intentional. So let me tell you what I did, and I'll tell you how I did it. So I was a 25-year executive at a global consulting firm, IT. I was 22 years in the military, US military, as a lieutenant colonel and federal agent. I'm out now, I retired. 15 years as a street cop in DC, all at the same time. I'm out now and I'm retired. And then starting at age 21, I started investing in real estate, not because I was trying to be the rich guy, but because I understood that if I could generate streams of income, then I would have the ability to create time freedom. So I did those 4 things all at the same time. The reason why time freedom and emotion and experiences became so important to me, I know you're on the other side of the pond and there are people listening from all over the world. I traveled to France as an inner city kid from Boston when I was 15. I did a 30-day road trip with an exchange student's family that stayed with me the previous summer. I learned that the world was a lot bigger than inner city Boston. French girls, French funerals, French castles, French food, French wine, French weed, French Boy Scouts. But I joke about it, but it changed who I was fundamentally. So if you fast forward, when I got to 21, I said, after I found real estate and after I found my jobs, I want the feelings that I had when I was on that trip and I realized that life was more than just sitting on the street in Boston. So fast forward, real estate popped in. I went after financial freedom. For 14 years, I started buying homes. I used my 2 paychecks intentionally. I was not worried about promotions at work. I was worried about paychecks. I used those 2 paychecks intentionally to buy 35 single family homes in the US, paid off 18 of them. By 2014, it was 160 grand. I knew that I was quote unquote free, but all along the while, I never stopped traveling. I went to the library in Fairfax County, Virginia. Instead of hanging out with the fellows on the weekend, I was always reading books. I learned about travel hacking. I learned about immersing in culture. And to this day, I am now 100 countries, 300 times. People say, oh, it's because you have money. It's because I learned a particular skill set called travel hacking and learned how to build relationships with amazing people around the world, such that the next time you come back, because you want to invest in them, you go. And thereby I have landed this crazy lifestyle where my friends and family say, how did you live those 4 or 5 lifetimes in a 20, 25-year period? And I tell them, you can be intentional about going after your freedoms: time freedom, financial freedom, geographic freedom, freedom to execute on your purpose, me becoming a police officer at night while I was an executive during the day, and then building meaningful relationships with amazing people like CHRISTA, who, if I popped up, maybe we could get lunch in town or what have you. So that's how I did it. I focused on those freedoms and I was very intentional about the things that I did in my time.
Maurice, I've got to rewind. When did you sleep? Because if you were a night cop and you had an executive, I know how hard it is when I'm sleep deprived. I cannot function or focus. And how many years did you do that for?
15.
Because how long?
15 years I did all of them at the same time.
But
you know, you'll
what
find
can I
a way.
say?
You'll find a way. If it's something you truly want to do in life, you'll find a way to get it done.
And do you know what? That is impressive in itself. Anyone that knows me, I don't get my 8 hours. I am not normal and I'm really cranky. So just, you know, going back and looking at how incredible. I mean, you're right. You grew up in Boston. And I must admit, it must be one of the toughest cities that I've come across in the US. So from that kind of the street mentality that you grew up in, I'm guessing, because it happens all over the world in pockets. You know, we have the same in London, Birmingham, Manchester, talking about the UK, and outside of the UK, just as many in different cities, because it's a city environment that breeds that kind of person. So for you to recognize from a small experience at school that you had an exchange, and that exchange changed how you saw the world. And you know, you talk about crossing the pond. I did a very similar thing. I was a bit older than you, but I crossed the pond and I went to sunny California. And that crossing the pond changed my life. And I think if I was going to ask you for a takeaway from today, I think that's something that we both can agree on. Travel, immerse yourself in travel. And your perspective on life just changes. And I think the earlier you do it.
The earlier you do it, the better. And what it does that people don't realize is it keeps you in the beginner's mindset. I know Washington, D.C. I know business here. I know how to talk to CEOs here or go to my kid's baseball game. Or I know D.C. But what I don't know is Brussels. So when I land in Brussels, or when I was in Lebanon for the first time 3 years ago, although I've been 30 times since already, I didn't know anything. You get to be a kid again. You get to reconnect with the intention of life in the first place, which was to access planet and life as intended, right? That's what travel can do for you. And when people travel as a tourist, I get it. but that's not how I want to travel. How I want to travel is, do I know the coffee shop owner? I usually take the business card of a taxi driver, and I will only call him or her, only, because then you can invest in that relationship and they can teach you stuff about their city, right? You get to be the kid and to explore and to learn again, just like we were when we were 5 or 6. Adults forget that. They forget to dream.
I'm going to hold on to that. That is just, oh, so powerful. So today we're talking, and I just want a takeaway from you that, you know, inspires everybody. And we've talked about travel, but just that little inspiration that you can give us that you've learned in your I'm going to say short lifetime, because it's been immensely long. So your short lifetime with so many different hats on, what is it that can really inspire us, push us forward? What change can we make?
So I'm very much a lifestyle design person. In fact, I coach on it. But one of the premises in lifestyle design, living intentionally, is the concept of and versus or. We were taught this thing about specialization, that you should only be one thing. I think that's okay for some. But for someone like me, I want to do all the things. I want to have all the experiences. So I've embraced the word and. I was an IT executive for 25 years, and I was a police officer for 15 years, and I was a federal agent for 22 years, and I built a real estate investment firm that's done $200 million in real estate in the last 3 years. And I wanted to live and work in the Mediterranean, so I built relationships, meaningful ones, and I now am doing real estate on the island of Cyprus in the last 18 months, and I'm working on a media project. It seems like a lot, but not in the context of life. I don't want to just sit around and do the same thing over and over again, but that's me. It's got to be contextual to the person. But if there's one thing I can give people that has allowed me to live these lifetimes in a 2-decade span, is embracing the concept of and versus or. I believe and is a stronger word.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maurice. That is amazing. I can't wait to speak to you again, because I'm sure I'll hear something else next time. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
Hello, everyone. This is Club 10M Plus's exciting new podcast that's here for you. We are all about stories, new developments, and learning about individuals. Our hope is that you will join us every week to hear about our distinguished guests. We hope to inspire you, bring you laughter, and make you reflect. Our guests come from all walks of life, and primarily, they want to share their stories. Not sure about you, but I love a good story. So Club 10M Plus have devoted their time to creating these podcasts, to sharing great ideas and stories, and much more. So tune in every week to make sure that you don't miss out. It could be you next week. Want to know more? We want to hear your stories, so sign up and be our next guest.